Today's Wednesday, November the 15th. I just welcomed the class, and we were talking about how time goes fast. As a matter of fact, we have a month from now until the semester ends, and we go for the winter term break. We meet back here in January, and then we start a next semester as well. So let's make the best of our time that we have left, and let's do all our assignments and all the projects and everything that we have remaining. I'm sure we'll have a nice, strong finish. So far, I'm quite pleased with everyone's performance and everyone's contribution, so let's keep that up. I'm going to just show my face really quickly here, just to say hello. And we're going to continue the lesson right now. I'm going to share my screen, if you can see it, and we're going to get started. All right, so welcome everybody. Here we go. So this is class number 10, week number 11. As I mentioned earlier, we're going to be accessing the Blackboard portal, and we're class 10, class 11 module. So under the Photoshop module, because the Illustrator module is finished, right? So we go to the Photoshop module. Under there, I have all the stuff that's kind of laid out for us for the remainder of the semester. So we're going to go under, we finished the introduction. Okay, that was a very simple introduction lesson into Photoshop. Last week, we got into the Facebook ad. It's important that you, when you do web production, you can just produce social media ads. They're really popular right now. So the fact that we did one, and you gotta get to do one as an assignment, it gives you that perfect leverage to know how to design it and execute it in a timely manner. So that's why you get a Facebook ad assignment. Due, by the way, it was supposed to do today, but I realized I gave you an extension for next week. So make sure that's all finished. If you do have it finished today, you can hand it in and get out of the way and move on to the other things. Okay, so then we have the MacBook Pro. We used all this for last week. So this week we're getting into class number 10. By the way, I like how we finished off last week's lesson with a discussion forum. So I like to do this more going forward. We'll do more of these. This is what everybody did for last week. So I can see everyone's contribution. I always want to encourage students to participate and keep their progress up, so I can see everyone doing wonderful jobs like this, putting their stuff together. So if you haven't had a chance to post your stuff, please do it. Okay, I like to just kind of monitor your progress. I can't always, address everyone individually. Sometimes I try in the classroom here and the messages or emails, but it's nice to see everyone partake in these discussions. So please, when I ask you to do this, I expect you to do so, okay? All right, so that's that one there. So this is class number 1011. I need you to download this layers.zip file. Just like the one we did last few lessons, this one's integral for you understanding how Photoshop uses the power of layers and assembly to create any type of composition and creative design. So download this file here, layers.zip. And I'm going to download that on the desktop file. So go ahead and do that with me. This is web page image sources. We might start that next week, actually. So this is how it's going to go. I'm going to put this on top so it's in the right order. This is today's lesson. This is next week's lesson. Because this lesson here covers, this folder here covers a lot of information. So if we get this done today, very good. We won't do every little thing in there, but I always have extra stuff to give my students. So we're going to cover the most important aspects of this folder. Then this is for next week here. All right. Just to quickly show you what this looks like, I'll download this website PSD file so you understand what we're getting into. And there's a mock-up here as well. And desktop mobile. You can download these if you wish. It's fine. They're for you to have. So going forward, I'm not going to put links anymore. We have a YouTube channel. So instead of you guys looking for the lesson, go up here and click on the YouTube channel for video lectures. Okay. I also want you to, tell me what you think about the videos. I need feedback. So hit the like button if you like it. If you don't, I'm thinking you don't like my videos. and subscribe so I can give you updates. Because this channel is going to be going forever now. I've said we're in it for life here. I might even include your other lessons in the future or in the past. So it's good to have this community going. I think it's a healthy thing to have through Humber and everything, and we're going to have a good lasting relationship too. So we're going to have that channel going. So if you click on it, you should see the updated channels. So if you go right to the bottom here, some have two parts. I like to give you a break in between the lessons, so I have part 1 and part 2 of the channels going forward. All right. So once you downloaded these files, let's have a look and see what it entails. I'm going to open this is the desktop mobile file. As you already are aware, when you're learning your HTML and CSS and the other classes, you do have to create a responsive website. 10 years ago, actually 15 years ago, that wasn't the case. Websites were just built for, different browsers and desktop screens. Ever since the smartphones kind of took command and became a necessity in everyone's life, most people, as the study goes, most people surf the internet on their phone. Very few people use a computer these days, right? To say the least. Only professionals like us using software and development tools and stuff, we need a computer. You can't do everything on a phone, and you guys know that, right? I always check out these apps that can design and do all these nice things. They're okay, but they're not going to replace the actual computer power of the desktop or the laptop. So that's why we need to make sure when you make a website, you can make one for the desktop and for the mobile version as well. So these are some of the things that we're going to be looking at in Photoshop, how to create these areas and how to create a prototype. This is an actual file. I'll show you a finished version of how it's laid out in Photoshop to make like a website. This is a Spanish restaurant, I think. So if I open up the file here, these are how the guides are set up for a responsive layout design. You can see how the layers are nicely broken up, right? It's 16:9 ratio. So you can see things like the header, the slide, the banner, which is over here, the testimonials, the specials, and the footer. I gave it to you like this, so you can take the challenge if you wish to kind of work with it and make it like a learning file. It's not really anything but that. Just to show you, all these things have to be put back together into the right placements, you see? That's why all these white spaces are there. So there's a lot of images and backgrounds, and with the power of the layers, you're able to organize all this. But this is how people put websites together in Photoshop. I encounter a lot of website templates also that give you a Photoshop file. There's two reasons for that. One is because you get a clear understanding of how the design works. And two, you get to generate the image assets to help you into the building process of the development of the website. So you can do two things. You can use these sources and export them for HTML and put them on the website. You can also use it for a presentation. So it's really important that you understand how design works, and Photoshop is a great program for that. It's got all the tools you need to execute this kind of thing. If you're hungry this morning, I apologize. I had to show you some food. Maybe we'll do it after, okay? So we're gonna close this one down because I'm just quickly showing you what this stuff is so you understand. And then there's this one here. This is how we learn how to create an actual breakdown of a website. So you get to create like the sections, the header, the footer, the hero banner, the columns, the rows, and all that stuff to make an actual functioning site. So next week, we're gonna get into this stuff, okay? But today we have to finish our very important lesson, and that's this one here called selections. So make sure this selections, sorry, not selections, layers. So this zip file that you just downloaded, again, I'll point you one more time in case you're wondering, because there's a lot of stuff I know. So again, you're looking at class 1011. I'm giving you a quick glimpse on these other items for next week, But what's important today is this file here called layers.zip. So I need you to download it with me so you can practice hands-on on how to do this stuff. So layers.zip, click download, and this is what it looks like when you open it. You're going to have multiple folders in there, a lot of folders actually. A lot of them are repetitive and redundant from what we did before, but the most important ones we're going to cover are this one here, layers. I'm going to label it like maybe green so we can execute it. Blend modes, effects, and layer mask. These are the 4 more important lessons that we're going to cover today. We're going to cover these folders today. The other ones are miscellaneous. I'm not going to waste my time and your time doing it. But just to show you, like this one is good for practicing called homework. If you open this file, all it does is just teaches you how to work with layers. You can have different layers and you can see how many layers there are. This is a nice animal kingdom. And the exercise here was to select each one and give it a corresponding name. So this is called polar bear. This is called a horse, giraffe, and things like that. And know how to organize your layer structure. And even do Command or Control T, you can resize the animals larger and smaller. And this is just to have some fun and understand how layers work. Okay, so if you want to do this, like I don't want to waste time in the class here, do it on your free time. You can definitely practice with this file here. It's not necessary. This is just a fun little exercise. So I'm going to put it away for now. And same thing goes with these other lesson files. Like this is like, for example, a preference tour. This is an older version of Photoshop, so it still covers today's versions. Not necessary, okay? Something you should keep mindful of. Then there's the folder that we're going to cover today, like layers, layer blends, effects, layer masks. These are all important attributes of the Photoshop powerful capabilities. Then we have content towards.
Yeah, it depends on what you want exactly. For which dates.
Here we go here. How's it going? Hello? Somebody has their mic on?
I muted him. It's fine.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So we have the effects, the layer masks, all these 4 important items we're going to cover. Content-aware scaling is something we looked at last week. It's just another little exercise. What I like about these is the actual step-by-step bullet points and handouts that it has. And there's the smart object here as well. This is important. Actually, I might cover this one also. Let me just make it green here. And image size is just how image size works. Obviously, the higher the resolution, the better the quality of the photo. So if it's in the thousands of pixels, or if it's the dots per inch is increased, that's when the quality is better. If it's a small resolution, it'll look smaller. The problem is you don't want to make small images and enlarge them because they get pixelated. So this is a quick little reference on how that works as well.
Sounds great.
All right. Let's see who's the chatter here. All right. We got Jerome here as well. Jerome, is that your mic going on and off there? All right, good morning. We got Tashal, Kajal, and Jerome online with us. All right, so this is being recorded, guys. So just try to keep if you have a question, raise your hand, or just let me know if you want to chime in to comment on something. Okay, so let's start with the, this one I'll save for last. This is a good overall review. I'm gonna mark it red, actually. Let's start with the smart objects, lesson 7. So I'll open this one up here. Okay, this has the little steps involved. Sometimes you don't have to get all tedious with these little steps, but I'll show you what that means, so in a nutshell, you understand the exercise. Open up this smart object PSD file, and you'll see what smart objects are. This is how it's laid out. Make sure your tools are set up on the left, your layers are set up on the right. This is an actual Apple logo. This is the original iconic Apple logo from way back in the day. There's 2 different ones. If I select each one of them, they move like this. I want to also point out how this happens naturally in Photoshop by default. this move tool, auto select layer is turned on. Did you know 10 years ago that wasn't the case? I had to tell the students to actually check this thing on for it to work. Because Photoshop was not based on direct selection, like object-oriented type of style. It was based on you selecting the layer and then working with the content in the layer. So right now things have changed. I guess the developers always do surveys and stuff, and they left it on by default. That's the reason why I can do this and I can do that. But usually when you do that, look, it selects the layer for you. And in most paint programs, you might have to select the layer. So just be mindful of that. So let's examine what this means. This has a little thumbnail icon here, and this doesn't. So what's the difference between these two? Well, the one with the little icon underneath in the corner means it's a smart object. Smart means it retains the information originally brought with it. And usually that happens when you place a graphic in your document. So let's see what happens when you select both of these layers with Shift and press Command T under Edit, Free Transform. Okay, so I'm going to make these smaller like this so I can put them on the merge here. We'll do a lot of this stuff later. Again, doing production techniques in this class. You might do a shopping cart website or something. You're going to have to prepare the products or the images. You have to put a lot of logos on this stuff. Perfect way to do it in Photoshop. That's very, very effective methods that I'm going to show you how this is executed with another lesson, but this is another one you can look at. But let's stick with the subject here, okay? So I'm making these logos smaller. Ready? I shrink them down, right? Let me hide the other layers so we don't get distracted. So we're focusing on these two, correct? All right? Now watch this. Command T or Edit, Free Transform, right? Let's make them bigger again. Keep watching. Press Enter. This can happen maybe from week to week. A lot of files now get shared with other designers. I give this to another person and they do the same thing. They try different sizing options and they hit Command T again. So they do this again, right? Then 2 weeks from now, another person gets the file and they decide, oh, let's make the logo bigger. So they hit Command T, they make the logo bigger. 2 weeks later, another person gets the file or the same person decides to make the images smaller. So they do this, right? And then 2 weeks again go by, you get the point, right? Look what happens if you do this too much. What just happened? The difference. This is what happens when you don't have a smart object versus a rasterized layer. Which is the one that's smart? The one with this icon. This is the one that's rasterized. Now, and in earlier versions of Photoshop, there was no such thing as a smart object. It didn't exist. But ever since they introduced smart objects, designers have to be consciously aware of what to do with it. Because the thing is this, you can scale it, no problem, but you can't edit it. So at some point, you have to make the decision to rasterize the layer. Because if you can't rasterize the layer, you can't really edit the layer. Like I can't go here and delete the green, delete the orange, delete the, I can't do that if it's a smart object. You understand? So you have to make this decision basically. Rule number one, don't scale things up and down like that, because that's what's going to happen, especially if it's not a smart object. If it is, then you have nothing to worry about. But if it isn't, you have to consider it. So watch this now. Because if I go to this layer here, let me just deselect it. This one here, I can go make a selection tool like this and press delete. Do you see that? With this one, I can't do that because it's a smart object. See, I hit delete. Look, Photoshop says no, can't do it. You have to rasterize the layer before you do something like that. So that's what I'm saying. You have to make sure you're aware of how you control these pixels. So if you press OK, and you have to watch this. If I rasterize the layer, I can do it now, right? But that means you can't scale it up and down anymore. Like leave it alone. Like make a decision to leave it, right? So do your design first, do your scaling, and then you can start editing your stuff. So it's something you got to be aware of. And of course, with the magic wand, I can go quickly and delete whatever parts I want, see? Right? So this is why it's important you understand a smart object versus a rasterized layer. And just be cautious of it. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Any questions, by the way? So again, this is a smart object. Let me just show you again. If you go File, Place Embedded in Photoshop, that's how you place graphics in your composition. And I select, let's say, I don't know, this logo here, right? See that? It's a smart object by default. So you don't have to worry about it. But if I want to get rid of this white background, I can't delete it unless I rasterize the layer, right? And then I go to the background eraser tool, let's say, the background or the magic eraser tool, and simply just do that, right? And click here, and click over here. Whoops, I missed, I think. Right? So this is what you have to be aware of. And then it's the rasterized layer. So if you want to edit the layer, you have to rasterize it. There's no other way around it. But if you don't rasterize it, you can scale it without getting affected. All right. Oh, sure. Yeah. So this was a lot of times when you bring in graphics or logos on the internet, they have a white background. The best way to get rid of the white background is to use the magic eraser tool. There's many ways to do this, but this is just one quick step solution with a tool. And make sure this layer is rasterized, okay? I already rasterized it, so make sure it's rasterized layer. And then you can go and just click in the background, it'll just delete the background. And if you click on the little D here and the E, there's a few holes you have to fill, and it's done. Then you can go ahead and, you know what some people do later when you do that? Watch this. This is my little trick I'm going to share with you. Ready? Then you come here, and then you convert to a smart object. When you convert to a smart object, now you don't have to edit it anymore. The background's deleted. You can then go ahead and do your scaling back and forth without getting affected. So you can do reverse engineering. Okay? You can bring something what it is, fix it, bring it back, and edit it. Something like that, right? I'll show you other examples. This is just like a quick little show and tell kind of thing. Let's move on to this lesson number 3, blend modes. Open that up, please. And you have a similar scenario here with this image, very popular amongst web production techniques. You get to put a logo on a merchandise gear. They call it merch. So maybe you get to do some, or swag or whatever they give out at these trade shows and tournaments and company functions. They do put the logo on top of the actual products here. The problem is this file was already done and saved over, so I didn't want this to show like this. So if you close your eyes for 1 second, I'm going to fix it. I'm kidding. Just look what I'll do. I'll just select this. I'm going to hold Shift. I'm going to Shift select. I even put the Toblerone logo in there. And I'm going to select with Shift all these logos, right? And I'm going to make this, instead of multiply, to normal, because this is what the logos looked like. This is what the file looks like, right? So basically, when you bring in logos, like a white background, this is what it looks like, right? The problem with this is the quality of the pixels are really bad. So you can't use the magic wand and delete it. It'll look worse, actually, right? So the one quick solution, and even this works even if it's good quality or bad quality, doesn't matter. The solution is this. You multiply the blend mode. So the blend mode multiply means this. Let's click on the Toblerone. This is off the internet. I got off a Toblerone logo. It's situated right here. Instead of normal, right? You change it to darken or multiply. Multiply is the more favorite one. When you multiply it, it gets rid of the white background. So you see the other example, I deleted the white background with the magic eraser. You don't have to do that, you can just do this. And then the logo looks like it's superimposed on the product, whether it's a jersey, a shirt, a mug, a coffee cup, whatever it is, that's how you superimpose graphics. Same thing happens here with this one. It's got the white background, so anything with the white background, if you change this to multiply, it gets rid of it quickly for you. That's why blend modes work. And yes, there's other blend modes. Some are more creative, right? There's different things you can do depending on the effect. But this is the more common ones. Multiply. Look, this has two. I'm going to shift select, multiply, or darken. You can use either one. I'll use darken for this because it's got the shiny reflective surface coating. So the whole point of this is to learn how to multiply white backgrounds onto objects. And again, shopping carts, websites that sell, look at Amazon with all the products and stuff. They want to show how it looks like on the product. You can't just sell something like plain. They put a logo on it. They put a brand name, and that's where they sell it. So this is how they do this multiply thing. Just to touch up on this better, look at this. There's a handout for this explaining thoroughly what this means. So basically, multiply is what I just did, right? So the blend mode specified in the options bar controls how pixels in the image are affected by a painting or editing tool. It's helpful to think in terms of the following colors when visualizing a blend mode effect. The base color is the original color on the image. The blend color is the color being applied with the painting or the editing tool. And the result color is the color resulting from the blend. So I know it sounds very tedious and kind of like, you know, back and forth, but that's exactly the definition of that. So all you have to remember is which blend mode to use in what instance. In this case, we use the multiply, and we opened that file and did just that. Multiply gets rid of the white backgrounds. That's all you have to remember. Even darken, okay? Okay, now this is the opposite one. It's called screen. Screen is the opposite of multiply. It gets rid of the dark background. So if you have like a let's say the example here, we have this one. So it's got like space with the black background. Let's open that up, right? Because this is here, this is a lens flare filter, okay? I'll teach you how to make one of these. Ready? Watch this. Press D for default. Black is your foreground color. Press Option, delete. Basically, you have a black fill. If I hide that layer, I have this thing with, it was done by Stars. It's like a filter effect. To know how to do that, there's a lesson for that as well over here. You can follow this to make stars. Really not important, but I thought I'd throw it in there. So basically, what that means is I have a black background, right? And how do I make a sun from scratch? Just like we did the first lesson, Photoshop can do lots of stuff on its own. So watch this. I'm going to go to Filter, Render, Lens Flare. This has been in the program since I started using Photoshop back in the late 90s, right? That's when this lens flare came out. So lens flare was like a cool thing. It's like a lens effect from a photographer's lens, basically. And what it does, it gives you this, let me hit the preview button. I don't get the preview. You can pick the type of lens you want. There's a 50 to a 300 millimeter zoom lens. There's a 35, there's a 105, there's a movie theme. I'm gonna go with the 105. So it looks like the sun is kind of beaming down. I can increase the brightness if I want, right? And once I press OK, it'll give me that effect. So I just showed you how to do that very quickly on a black background because lens flare works with dark backgrounds. Now, the opposite of what I did earlier was if I try to do multiply or darken, you see, it's gonna go through that part there. So the white dissipates. But if you go to screen or lighten, the black blends into the background. So again, if it's normal, or if you go to screen, so the black kind of blends into the background that way. So that's how you can do a cool effect by blending dark or light colors, right, in different ways. I think we did it was a Batman poster, and we did an alleyway. like a dark alleyway, and Batman was kind of sitting there, and we had made it rain by putting in a rain picture, and we just used the same screen effect. So what happened was the darkness blended to the alley, and it looks like it was raining. Really cool effect. Same thing. The difference is I don't have Batman and I don't have the rain. I have the stars instead. So same thing works. You can create this cool effect with different scenarios. Okay. All right. So the last one is this one here. This is called hard light. This is a more creative type of blend, but it's pretty popular and common in most scenarios. And this one lets you explore all the other blend mode possibilities. So for this one, you see there's a layer mask applied. There's an image that's cut out on top of this background. Now I want to blend this image in a nice harmonious kind of way. So if I go to normal, let's try to like go to darken, you see? Multiply, color burn, linear burn. You can try all these different blend modes and see the results each one gives you. It's pretty experimental, so you don't really, I can't remember what everything does, but I do remember my main three: darken, lighten, screen, multiply. Those are the common ones. These other ones you can kind of play with and see the results you might get, because some of them might give you different types of outcome. Hard light would be the one they recommended for this, because it blends the contrasting colors perfectly in a balanced way. So it looks like both things are present at the same time. Nothing gets nullified. Everything is present and visible. This is why this gives you this example for that. Okay, so the blend modes are a really powerful method. As a matter of fact, other programs have blend modes too, like Illustrator has it, by the way. I think even InDesign and other programs inherited blend modes for this particular reason. But Photoshop is the original program that had this from day one, and it still does a good job of controlling each one. All right, so that's how blend modes work. So this was a quick little demonstration. If this can help you with different montages and layouts and stuff, this was that, okay? So I just covered hard light, okay? So we covered this one just now, screen and multiply. These are the three most popular blend modes there. I mean, they're all kind of popular, I guess. All right. Effects. A lot of people love Photoshop for the effects, because the effects, even filters, if you want to look at it that way, can really add some pizzazz to your design. So if you look at this handout here, it shows about different effects that you can apply on an actual design, composition, or any type of creative layout that you're partaking in. So Photoshop provides a variety of effects, such as shadows, glows, bevels, that change the appearance of a layer's content. Layer effects are linked to the layer contents. When you move or edit the content of a layer, the same effects are applied to the modified content, and so on and so forth, okay? So a layer style is one of the most effective applied to a layer or layer group. And you can apply one to the preset styles provided with Photoshop, or create a custom one. So we're gonna make a custom one, obviously, but it gives you a quick little description of what these things are, okay? So there's glows, drop shadows, and bevel and emboss. We're gonna make this from scratch. So lo and behold, let's open this one here. Double click on the first one. It's called glows. Open it up. This was a movie poster originally by a very famous movie called Rise of the Planet of the Apes. So they kind of use this mock-up for that. I don't know if it's not the actual poster, but you can see all the layers that entail different things. Like this is like the title, see? So this one says drop shadow, which means we are gonna make a drop shadow to enhance the title of this layout right now, okay? This here is the shadow of the planet. You see, this was done manually with an airbrush to create the shadow like of the planet, to make it look more three-dimensional, okay? And this is the actual planet itself, okay, just to show you. I'm just press Command Z, I don't want to mess up the whole thing. This is how they created that nice cloudy texture. This is all it is, a filter, right? And this is the stars thing that is, there's a step-by-step tutorial on how to do that, with some credits on the bottom. So if you look at your layer aspects, this is how you can control everything that's there, right? but we're here to do layer effects, okay? Layer effects or styles. So what we're gonna do is here, this drop shadow one, okay? First, let's make it a little bigger, pressing Command T or Control T, just a touch bigger. Press Enter, move it in the corner here. Look at my space, the same as here as it is there. You can even draw guides if you want, to make it nice and even, right? Just to kind of keep it the rule of thirds, which means the title's predominant. There's maybe a subheading or some type, and then there's a smaller type describing the actual content. So you can do lots of different design elements to get this done. Now, what this means is I have to put a drop shadow. The best way to do it is there's two ways actually. One is to go up down here, the little effects button, and look for drop shadow. My favorite way to do this, I don't like scouring for this thing down here. I'd rather do this. Double click on this empty space where the layer is situated. If you do that, it'll open up this layer style panel, which means you can pick anything from scratch. In this case, I'm going to venture down here to the drop shadow option and see how this drop shadow is nice and present on my title of the movie poster. On top of that, I can control the actual parameters of the distance, the spread, the size, the color, the opacity, a lot of things. I'm going to go with 8. I'm hitting tab 8. I'm going to increase the opacity to like, maybe 90, right? I'm going to have a black shadow color. If I want to change that, I can change it to any color I want. I can make it like yellow if I want. I don't think it's appropriate though, because of the way it's even blended to multiply. You see how I showed you blend modes earlier? The blend modes are integrated with the effects too. So you can actually apply an effect and a blend mode. Because if I go to normal and I make this, let's say yellow, you'll see yellow drop shadow. But because it's a multiply, remember it multiplies with the effect. That's why I'm going to use, like, usually shadows are black. So I'm going to go with the black fill, right? And I'm going to use a blend mode of maybe multiply. And even if you don't, it still works, okay? And then you can use that for your title, okay? So it gives it a really stronger presence. All right. And you can control the angle. Look at the angle. You can go from here. Where's the light coming from, right? So I go from the top left corner. Usually I like to go with a 135-degree angle. And it's called the global layer. That means if there's other light factors that come into the equation, they're all going to follow the global rule. There's only one sun shining down. So all the shadows follow that order. You can't have a sun coming from here, a sun coming from there, and a sun coming from there. You can't have, there's only one light direction coming. That's why it's called a global rule. This is the reason why there's a global light attribute there. So just make sure it's on, basically. Once you click OK, there's your title with the drop shadow effect. All right, now this is the shadow, so I'm going to leave this alone. Maybe what I'll do here is reduce the opacity slightly, a little too much. Maybe I'll make it like 65, okay? And then on this one here, the planet itself, look how I'm clicking the visible on and off, right? To identify the layer, not just visibly, but actually visually here on the left. So if I double click on the far right of the layer, I'm going to apply what's called outer glow. And I can pick a color for that, maybe like a nice, that Krypton green looks good, like a bright, bright green, right? Like this, so it's nice and glow. I'll even do an inner glow as well. So if I go to inner glow from here, I can change this color to maybe, let's try that purple. I'll make it normal. Oh, there we go. It's coming together now. Right? So it's like a pinkish, reddish type of planet. So yes, you can apply multiple effects on the layer, but you don't want to go like this. Look, you don't want to apply all of them because it's not going to look like anything. That doesn't look too bad, actually. The purple planet used to be a store back in the day. All right. So this is how you can control some of these. I would recommend no more than 2 to 3 effects at the same time. I would stick with 1, maybe 2, 3. careful. Too many things at once. You don't want to apply too many effects on the same thing, right? Every individual layer or object should have its own characteristics. So whether it's a glow, an emboss, a shadow, whatever you want to make sure it's properly applied. Okay, so this was under this one here. And lastly, I think that was the example that this displayed. So without the effects, look what happens now. I can hide the effects, right? Just by clicking on the visible. And you can see the difference effects make. It really brings up the images better, the contrast, the message, and everything else. It definitely plays a key role to that. Photoshop does really good job of this stuff. See, Illustrator can't do this kind of stuff. You know what Illustrator does, you already used it. This is when you go to Photoshop and you do these cool special effects. They do it on movies, they do it on images, they do it on anything. And right now with all the social media platforms there, and you guys have Photoshop at your disposal, you can do some really cool things, right? All right, I'm gonna just quickly save this, right? And this pretty much wrapped up this whole little segment here of me showing you different type of effects. And the drop shadow as well. We did the drop shadow. Now the next one is called bevel and emboss. This one I want you to teach you how to make it from scratch. So I might use the lesson example, but I'm also going to teach you how to make one yourself, especially now with the AI and all the other integrated technologies that we have. It's a really, really powerful tool. See, AI and you knowing this software makes you that much more powerful at doing these things. So let's go ahead and open this next one called bevel. On the second one, double click. And this is what it looks like. So you have this background layer, and you have this thing called steel. And this is basically a cutout from this. But how do we cut it out? And how about if I want to change the texture? So let's delete it. I'll teach you how to make it from scratch. Because if I was just to follow the lesson and go like this, double click, right? Click on bevel and emboss, and you can see what bevel and emboss does. But you're like, well, wait a minute. How'd you get there? How'd you get to that step? So I want to teach you this from the beginning. That's why this is just an example, whereas I want to teach you how to know this kind of stuff. So I'm going to press delete. If you don't like this texture, let's make our own texture too. I'll show you how to do that as well. And I don't have to go to Google anymore and look for gold texture or wood texture. I can just press Command A and get my contextual taskbar to be visible, and I can generate any texture that I like. And of course, with prompts and everything, you have to be very assertive and calculating how to get the right one. But if I just go generate fill, and I'll type in wood cutting board plank texture, okay? And I hit generate, let's see what happens. Yes. You can do it this way, or you can use it through the panel on the right. I like to use the contextual bar, and then there's my wood texture instantly done in Photoshop that I can utilize for the example, you see? So again, let me show you again, right? Command A establishes the whole selection of the document. I'm not saying, hey, just make this like that. The whole thing, and then I made sure this was visible under window, the contextual taskbar. I shut it off sometimes. It's a little, it just gets in the way. So I bring it up when I need it. When I don't need it, I hide it. I don't always use generated fill. I'd rather sometimes be control my own sources. When I do stuff, I mean, you know, a lot of the sources are supplied to me. But very, you know, sometimes in cases like this, you have to create your own stuff, then that's fine. All right, so this background layer, I'm gonna delete it right now. Let's try another texture here. Let's do another one. Command A, generate fill. Let's try moon rocky surface. Moon rocky surface. Okay, let's see. And when you do these generated fill textures with AI, which is now the new thing that's taking over, you know, all these other platforms and programs. Of course, Photoshop has to get on it as well. And you can see how this gives me a rocky, but look, there's other examples. You can go with this one or that one. It kind of gave me a cool little, I don't know if it looks like the moon, but it looks like more like the Canadian shield or something. But you can do lots of different things basically just by generating prompts. Sorry? Oh, moot. Yeah, I put moot here. Yeah, I misspelled it. Good eye. Maybe that's the reason. See? Moon, rocky surface. Let's try it again. And then I can be more descriptive, like a perspective, no perspective, top view, a different view. Like, you know, you gotta be really putting in the right prompt to get the proper description of the image. And here we go. There we go. Look, so it does look like a moony texture now. And there's another one here and another one over here, right? Right? So it's kind of cool. Okay, let's use this one, okay? Let's go with this one here. So what I'm going to do now is this. We're going to use the type tool. So the type tool itself works like if you just go to the type tool, you click, and this just produces, you know, let's type in moon, right? So this just creates like text, right? Yeah, that's fine. You can double click. You can change the size of the text. Oops, that's a little too big there. Let's go to 24. You can change the color of it, right? This is how you can produce text in Photoshop, right? Of course, you have the contextual taskbar, so you can control the size this way. You can control the color this way. I kind of don't mind this. If Photoshop did enhance its, I can even sample this color here. See this color, right? So it's nice how you can do some cool things with the type tool. Then if I want to elevate it, look, double click here, and I can bring up maybe perhaps an outer glow. I can do, for this one, I would do probably a stroke, right? Just a simple stroke. Make it like a white stroke with 2 pixels perhaps, something like this. Maybe, you know, whatever you want to do, you can really dress this up any way you like. But I want to show you that bevel and emboss effect. So what I'm going to do instead is, instead of this, I'll try a different variation for my design. So ready? So this is a simple thing, right? One more thing I want to point out. You either click and type. If you do that, it becomes like a character or a, you know, a word basically, right? Like a field. But if you draw a text box, then you can contain more information inside the text box. Get it? So if you put like more description, like a paragraph or something, then you might want to draw a text box. And you should do both because sometimes, look, see the text box controls the text. It's responsive, right? So it flexes with the actual bounding box. See, like that. So the question is, when to draw? Should you do a text box? Just like Illustrator, same thing. You click and you type, or you draw a text box to type more text. So now that we know the basics of, you know, how to apply typography, the same way you do it in Illustrator, you do it in Photoshop, let's see what other methods are there. Because Photoshop's a digital imaging tool, the most powerful one on the planet. I'm going to use the horizontal type mask tool. Okay? Horizontal type mask tool. So I'm going to go here and just click once and type moon. I'm going to make this nice and big. Well, I got to make sure you highlight it first, I think, to make it bigger. Right? Oh, I just, by accident, I pressed OK there. So if there's a selection that shows up, the best you can do is go to the selection tool and you can move the selection, okay? Sometimes it gets finicky, so you got to be careful. Let me just do it again one more time. So again, this is the horizontal type mask tool. You click once, you set up your size. I'm gonna go with maybe 32, okay? I'm gonna type in moon, right? And what you can do right away, I want to keep it nice and easy for you because it's gonna give you a problem if you don't do it right. Okay, so here's the rules, right? You click here, you type moon, right? To move it, without this guy, you have no problems. Like if this wasn't here, moving it was very easily done. Well, usually it's down here, you can move it. Because if you go to the move tool, it makes a selection. That's what I don't want you to start doing. And then if you move it, it'll do this to you. So I want you to be able to control this a little better. So if you just pay attention to what I'm going to say next, it's very important. So again, if you're in this selection tool, right, try to click further. Depends where you're going to align it. Click maybe, don't click too far to the left. Rather than click more like in the middle, but not really the middle, like over here. Just type there. And it's centered, you can maybe anchor it to the left or to the right. So you can control how the alignment is on the text to begin with. And then I type in moon, for example. Right now I have a better view of it. In earlier versions, this did let me move it. Now it's not letting me move it for some reason. And if I do, maybe try this tool here. Yeah, see, whatever you do, it does this. When this happens, you have to use the selection tool. Any selection tool, this one, that one, you can use the lasso, because once you're in selection mode, you got to go in the selection and move the selection. Do you see what I mean? So just keep that in mind. That's all I was trying to do and trying to keep this easy, but I think that's the only way to do it is make a selection, be aware of it, move it as a selection. And then you want to extract this to a separate layer by pressing Command J or copy and paste. That means that this now is cut out on its own, like that. I'm just gonna make this visible. Let me delete this layer here. So I do have this cool moon typography extract, like it was here. See how it's camouflaged, you can't see it? You have to move it to see it, right? So I'm gonna move this over here, and then I'm gonna apply the bevel and emboss effects, okay, which is what the exercise kind of caters to, right? This says bevel and emboss. Instead of me using that cheap little example, I made one from scratch to teach you how to do these tricks, okay? So I'm just doing this right now on this file. So how many bevel and emboss effects are there? There's a lot actually. There's inner bevel, there's emboss, there's outer bevel, okay? There's pillow emboss, one of my favorites. It looks like you're chiseling inside the wood or the metal, right? There's also a stroke emboss, not as popular. So let's go with the outer bevel is fine, or even the emboss itself works. The inner bevel gives you the more cleaner look. So it's up to you which one you choose. You can also control the light or the shadow attributes of the bevel. So you can really have control of this as well. You can control the size. Don't go too much because it's called an overkill. Don't do the effect. Maybe this should be like single digits, like 7 or something. And the softness, depending on how soft you want this to be, this can also be single digits as well, maybe like 3. The point is, keep this to a minimal, and the depth, of course, controls how deep the effect is as well. So you can make this kind of 3D looking text in a 2D environment just by simply doing this kind of stuff, right? And this is called bevel and emboss. And all it did was me going here, extracting it, and putting the effect. See, you can't do this in CSS or HTML or all these programming languages you're learning. But if you want to make something eye-candy, popping, graphic, you got to use Photoshop, okay? Or other design programs if you want. But none of them compare to what Photoshop can do when it comes to like design stuff. So that's why it's nice and effective the way you see it. All right, so that was a nice bevel and emboss it. If you want to just, let me just do a quick save as. I'm going to call this one Moon. Just, if you want to just practice this nice and easy, you can just open up the original file, which is this one here. Just double click on this file, right? This is already prepared for you. And you simply click on this steel here, double click, and just do bevel and emboss. You can do it this way too if you want, to practice, to see how it works on anything. That one, I took it from a creative standpoint, how to make it. This one is kind of how to apply it. All right. If you have questions about this stuff later on, you can always ask me. I can review these things again. I don't mean to just go over like quickly like this, but it is what it is. Like, this is how you do it. And it's a matter of you retaining this information, practicing it. Don't forget this video is being recorded. You can watch it again later and practice it maybe a few more times. So the information is there for you. Okay, this next important one. Yes.
How do you generate those background varieties?
Which one? The moon one?
The moon one or the...
Yes. So what's wonderful about Photoshop? This is an exciting time to teach Photoshop. Out of all the years I've taught Photoshop, this was the most evolutionary thing that they came up with. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a few nice things they had along the way, but with AI right now, it's all over the world. You know, AI this and AI that. If you make a new file from Photoshop, do this right now if you want. I'll go to web. Pretend I'm making a website, and I'm gonna do a texture for the website. I'm gonna do like a nice background for the website, or like some kind of a hero banner effect. I'm gonna go to basically most common, like 1366 by 768, send it to DPI. No artboards, just turn off the artboard. We'll do that next week when we do a website. We'll click create. So this is a big background now, right? So if I want to fill this background with something, you can go to window, right? You can also go to I just like to use this one here under window, contextual taskbar. So just make sure that's visible. This way it's right here. And once that's visible here, you can then press Command A. So you have to have a selection present. No selection, no result. So you press Command A. That means everything is selected. The whole white space is selected. So now this contextual taskbar says, okay, it says generate fill. Fill a what? Fill a nothing. So generate fill. It says, tell me what you want me to type in there. So I'm going to type in Amazon green forest with a beautiful waterfall. I spelled beautiful wrong, of course. I think it's one L. Okay, Amazon green forest with a beautiful waterfall. How's that sound? And you can be more descriptive. You can say, you know, you want some certain types of tropical plants to be there. You know, you want to have like an animal or something, right? Whatever. I can put a comma here. Well, let's just keep it simple, because prompting is a whole new different thing that we can learn. So let's go ahead and generate. Here we go. So before I would go to Google and look for images, right? Or go to like Pexels or, you know, Unsplash and Pixabay, right? Now you can just make your own stuff, and it's and you know, copyright goes, you can kind of run it too. So look at this now. Let's see what happens. Look at that. So this picture doesn't exist anywhere in the world right now but me, unless somebody generated the same thing. But then you have this one, you can go with this one or go with that one. So you guys don't have to go there to take pictures anymore. All right, so this is how this stuff works. It's amazing how you can generate things with AI. Okay?
AI actually generated all this, or just find somewhere from the world and put it in?
It's a collection of everything. So I'm sure there's images of trees and forests and stuff on the internet. the waterfalls. AI was able to compile its own formation. That's why if you do people, remember the fingers look all bad and stuff? Like right now, watch this. Let's say I go like this, right? Now I'm gonna make a selection here, right here, where the waterfall is. I'm gonna make a selection like this, and I'm gonna generate Black Panther. Let's put a jaguar actually. How about just jaguar? Cat, jaguar, cat. There we go. Notice how I made a selection of the whole thing. Sorry?
This can be copyrighted or no? Because all the images are from the internet, so we haven't done anything.
Well, that's the thing, right? I mean, it's a gray area that people look at this. I mean, even this one is not the greatest, but you can put the jaguar there. Like, who's gonna prove to me that that's their picture? You know what I mean? It's a very argumentative thing. But that picture could exist on the internet. I don't know that, right? Could be, could not. But the fact that you have this now, but be careful, because if you move this around, it brings the background with it. You see what I'm saying? So it does match the background, but it's a little. Now you guys know Photoshop, and now here's what you can do. If you really wanted this picture, right? You could go and use the let's say quick selection tool, right? Get a nice selection of the jaguar, quick mask mode, right? Make it perfect, and then you can copy and paste it to have a better, clear background. You can do more editing that way. So it gives you more leverage than just using prompts and, you know, what are you gonna do? If you don't know Photoshop now, you're stuck with this. You can't go and just move it over here. It's not gonna look good. That's why knowing what I taught you in the past 2 weeks, by knowing how to use quick masks and selections, you can make this a lot better too, okay? But yeah, as far as creativity goes, I don't know if someone has a similar picture like this, but I doubt it. It's really unique in its own way, okay? There. Amazon Forest. Now watch this. When I save this, right? And if you open the same file, it's a Photoshop file, so open it up another day, not only it has all the prompts here under the properties, you can see all the different prompts that are saved from before. So you can still alter different backgrounds, but if you do that, look what happens, you're messing up the original. So you really have to kind of go there and regenerate some of the things that, it doesn't always work, eh? It's not perfect. So don't think it's the answer to many things. A lot of it, sometimes it's more work to do this than just to get a proper picture to do the right montage. So depending on what you're doing, okay? All right. So it's pretty fun stuff. I mean, you know, it's really interesting how AI has evolved and what you can do with it, with Photoshop and other similar programs. All right, here we go. Layer mask. This is again, learning the technical stuff is important. This other stuff, you know, is there, but without knowing this stuff, you have not much control in the software. So layer masks is an integral part of utilizing Photoshop's image editing capabilities, even also isolating parts of images. Just like right now with that jaguar in the jungle, this can help me make it even better in a way so it can actually be easily allocated in different parts of the image. So let's open up this one here first. It's called Mask Hide. Double click, and you'll see, well, this is already done for you. You know, sometimes these lessons, I've done this lesson before, so I saved it. Do me a favor, can we like unfix this by doing it, look at the layer, and just dump, this second thumbnail is the mask. You know what a mask does, right? It hides things, right? So I'm gonna dump this little thumbnail to the trash can down here, and just hit, and just like that. So basically it's a helicopter flying around. That's what that is. The helicopter is flying around, and it says speed limit enforced by aircraft. I never gotten pulled over by a helicopter before, but a cop car, yes, okay? So that's when they pull you over, you go too fast. But some parts of the US and even Canada, they do have helicopter patrol. Maybe not an Apache helicopter, There are some kind of helicopters there. So how do we make it look like it's coming out from the trees, right? So to make it look like it's hiding behind the trees, it's like an effect we're making here, right? First, we might make it smaller or bigger. So Command T, right? And notice how this helicopter is a smart layer, okay? It's a smart object, I should say. Smart layer, smart object, okay? So to make it look like it's hiding here, so you can't see it, it's gonna surprise everybody, you gotta make a mask. And this is a cool effect you can make with typography, backgrounds, images, anything. So to do that, you're gonna go to Layer, Layer Mask, Reveal All. Once you do that, a second thumbnail shows up beside the layer. That's an indication that you made a successful layer mask. What that means is now it's a quick mask. It's black or white. So black takes away from the mask, white reveals the mask. So what you have to do is use a brush. So B for brush, okay? And you're gonna use black or white as a foreground or background color. So I'm gonna press D for default, okay? So I have white in the foreground color, and I have a mask selected. So if I go here and just do this, nothing. Well, white's a revealer, so it's not gonna really hide anything. But if I press X, X switches the black to the foreground color, the white becomes the background color. With the black now, I can start deleting stuff in the mask like this. See? So you can ask me and say, why don't you use the eraser? Just erase it. Why are you using a mask, right? What's the point? What's with the fancy stuff, right? Well, the fancy stuff is because, look, if I do this, right? Let's say I mess up and I realize it 2 weeks from now that I made a mistake because it's a mask. You can always open the file and correct it, right? So it's editable, which means I can go X, bring the white on the foreground color, zoom in, make the brush smaller, and I can fix the little details right now because I can bring things back, you see? That's what the mask does, hide or reveal. So I'm gonna go all the way here, basically go all the way like this. You see what I'm doing here? And that's what makes this a little more realistic and easy to execute as a mask layer of displaying the actual pixels. So this is how layer masks work, okay? Now, in conjunction with this, you can do a lot of cool creative effects. So let's go ahead and close this down. Yeah, sure. I'm gonna open it again. So let's start from scratch. Usually you don't have them. How about I bring in, let's bring in a new picture, okay? I'm gonna delete it, right? I'm gonna go bring in, I'm just gonna go over here for a second. I'm gonna bring in helicopter. Maybe a more user-friendly one. Helicopter. Right, let's say I get this one here. Maybe I'll make a simple one with the white background, maybe. This one here might do it. Whatever, okay. So right click, save image as. Okay, I'll save it onto the desktop. Maybe, you know what, just to make this easier, PNG. I'm gonna do PNG so it's easy to get I don't wanna waste too much time doing the helicopter example here, but let's get this one here. So it's transparent, right? So right click, save image as, okay? I'm gonna save this helicopter to the desktop. If it's not transparent, just get rid of the white background, whatever, okay? Just make it easy for yourself. So when I'm here now, I'm gonna put a helicopter in the picture to make this story, okay? I'm doing a story of, you know, police doing a patrol on the highway. So I'm gonna go File, Place, Embedded. I'm gonna go to the helicopter. I got off the internet, Place, and there it is, right? And if I want to hide the helicopter behind the trees, so it's hiding, right? Like this. I'm going to position it first, press enter, okay? And then you want to make a mask. So maybe I'll move it here actually. There. So how do I hide the trees? So it creates a layer of dimension. So you have the trees, the helicopter, the background. This is what's cool about this effect. So you go to layer, layer mask, reveal all. That's how you apply a layer mask. My way to do it, I just click on this little thumbnail right here. Watch this. See here? I click on this thumbnail. That makes a layer mask too. It's the same thing. You click here, or the more menu-oriented way, you go to layer mask, reveal all. Then the second thumbnail shows up. If it doesn't, that means you didn't do it properly. So make sure you do it right. Then you use the brush. You can use a pencil, a brush, anything that you paint with. In Photoshop is a paint program. It's got a vast array of tools. So I'm going to go with the brush tool here. Make sure the brush is nice and big, even feather, like the hardness would maybe like 90. Not really going all out here, right? So 85, whatever. Make the brush size bigger, smaller. I'm using, beside the letter P, the 2 square brackets, big, small, bigger, smaller. You can also go here and control the size, 60, 50, right? And make sure white and black are set up, because white will not do anything. But if you press X, you switch it to the black foreground color, then the mask will work. That means I can go here and start deleting parts of the helicopter. And usually, you're not going to get it right the first time, right? So when you do it the first pass, the second pass, I'm going to press X. I'll bring white to the foreground color, and I'm going to do my little tweaking to fix the effect to work like it's a real helicopter. I'm just going to edge the trees a bit here, right? Maybe I'll cut this tree off. I don't know if it's right, but you get the idea here. And if you use a feathered brush, like a soft brush, it'll look like it's smoother. It's not as rigid as it was with the other one, right? So this is how you can kind of make the effect that it looks like it's hiding in the trees, right? That's how mask works. Okay, did you get it? Yeah. All right, so again, masking and unmasking is how you get this done. All right, any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to close this down. This other one here, I didn't make this stuff up. It's just these pictures, okay? There's Donald Trump here. The thing is this, you can have some fun with any celebrity. This is before even, this is old, it's not even new. You can put any celebrity picture here. You can picture of anyone. And you can go and use the mask like we have it set up. If you click on the mask, and if you click on the brush, if you make the size bigger, like this, and you start, oh, let's press black here. Look at this, see? Look what happens. So how's this effect work? You guys saw the movie The Terminator, right? So that's how you can make this super effects. The way that works is because behind that layer, there's a picture of a Terminator superimposed. So a lot of people have, like, you can make yourself look like a cat or something weird like that, right? You can superimpose faces and make effects like they do with movies. And the reason why, because this group here had a picture perfectly positioned and sized like the face. So it looks like it's creating the effect like that. So once it's superimposed, you duplicate the layer and you make the effect so it looks like this here. Right? Just an example how layer masks work. All right, so I'm going to close this one down. Hope I didn't scare you and you're not going to have any nightmares, okay? All right, next one. This is an interesting one. It's got a picture of like a fish and a frog. How do you amalgamate 2 images to look like one? So I'm going to open this one next, and you'll see something like this. And with the move tool, look at this. I'll position this frog to look like you know what a mutation is? When you mutate 2 animals together, so it'll be a fish frog, okay? So how do you make a fish frog is if you move this here, right? Oh, by the way, I gotta get rid of that layer because it's already done for you. This is an example how to do it. So put it in the position first. And everything I'm showing you, by the way, is on this handout. So everything that I'm showing you here is step by step. If you want to read it, it's right there, okay? I'm just doing a live demonstration right now with the video recording, you know, and then you guys can read it later if you want to practice it. But everything I'm doing here is pretty much on the handout. So what happens in this case, right, is you can do a transition between one image to the next. And if you use like a layer, first let's add a layer mask, reveal all, right? There's the layer mask. Then there's the brush. In this case, you want to make the hardness 0 and the size triple digits, like 200 maybe, you know, so 200 size pixels, 0 hardness. So look what happens now. You fade the pixels like this, so it's nice and faded. So it looks like it's blending in. And that's how these effects work when you want to make things smooth in a transition type of composition way. Let me teach you another one of my favorites now. This is again in the handout, okay? The best way to make a transition, and you know this, we did it last module with Illustrator, is using a gradient. So think about black and white, right? How do you blend the two together? So if I use a gradient, the gradient tool, and I use black and white, which is the basics, black and white, and I use a gradient, oh, wrong way. Let's go from right to left. Look how perfect this is now. And now with the new gradient annotator tool, this is new. This just came out like this year. I love how they changed it. You can control how much it blends. You can control how far it goes, right? You can control how far it goes this way. It's really, really controllable. Before you had to go like swipe, 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 like 10 times to get it right. Now you can edit the existing one and get a visual preview of how the effect works. So again, layer masks are pretty incredible stuff, okay? This is how you can really have control of the software, all right, by using this stuff here. And all it is a layer mask on the layer, on top of another layer to make the effect work.
Is it possible to fish eye and
To what?
remove the frog eye and use the fish eye?
I guess, absolutely, I can do whatever I want. Where's the, oh, okay. So in this case, I would hide the layer here, zoom into the eye of the fish, make sure I'm on the fish layer. I'm going to use the selection tool and just select the eye like this, right? Copy paste or Command J, put on top of the layer, make this visible, and grab this eye and put the eye here. So now I have the fish eye on top of the frog eye. Or I can make the frog eye, I can do a lot more stuff. But to answer your question simply, yes, I can. Right? So you can do whatever you want. Okay? All right, one more example, and then you can, look, the possibilities are endless. You can think of, these are just different categories of the way it's applied. One did hiding, showing, one did special effects, this one did transitions. You see how different, they're applied differently to give you those different creative results. That's why I'm giving you different scenarios. It's not just showing you a simple, cheap little trick, but showing you the real ways how professionals use them. So I'm gonna close this one down, hit save one more time. Next one is called hide mask. Same thing again, by using different color revealing methods, okay? So for this one again, I'll do the same thing, okay? I'm gonna delete this layer, just delete it. Okay, delete the layer. What we have here is a color composition, all right? And I'm gonna hit Command J. Command J does, it duplicates the layer. So you have two layers on top of each other of the same kind. This layer here, what you can do is do an adjustment layer. So adjustment layer is over here. We'll get into this stuff in the future because we're going to do some color correction. But in a nutshell, this does nice stuff. Like people come here and do like, you know, brightness and contrast and things like that, right? Because they're important to do color correcting measures of images. These are new. These are presets. You see, this does different different effects, but like default. I'm not a big fan of these because no one's going to use default. Everyone's going to do customization. So what you want to do is you want to use other levels, curves. These are the most two important ones. But in this case, we're going to do what's called a channel mixer. A channel mixer does some really cool stuff because you can literally take a preset and make it a black and white yellow filter, right? Honestly, it's just a random thing that came up with this. I never did this other than this example here. So it's not that popular, but it's there for that reason. You can control different variances of the colors. So you have a lot more exposure of different colors showing up as they do right now, okay? So really, you can just do a little bit of this. But look at this now. To be honest with you, I didn't even have to duplicate the layer. I didn't have to do that. I could have done it just with one layer and just did that on top of it. Because adjustment layer is by itself. You understand? So you don't have to really do it on the layer. That was just an extra added measure for no reason. Okay, so you do that, and then you have a layer mask. Think about it, a layer mask. That means you can hide the layer underneath, which is color. So now I go use a brush tool. I zoom in nice and easy. And look at this. I just paint the sunflowers yellow. Right? I can just go. And this is a cool effect on advertisements. Yellow Pages did it. Other movies did it, where you have different ways of showing and hiding colors on the background. So another way you can apply this layer mask in conjunction with adjustment layers for added effects. All right.
Photoshop looks more powerful than Illustrator.
Well, it's a digital imaging tool. I think in the world view, Photoshop is more useful. But Illustrator, it's more technical because think about it. Like, look what we can do in Illustrator. We can make stuff, draw stuff. Like, how are you going to make this in Photoshop? No, Illustrator. This cup, this design, this stuff.
Oh, so the 3D thing, can you do it here too?
Which one?
3D.
It's got 3D, but there's 3D programs for 3D, right? Photoshop can do some 3D effects to a certain point. Not to take away from its capabilities, but it's not in. You're not going to get professional 3D studios use Photoshop for 3D. You're going to use Maya, all these other 3D programs like 3D Studio. Which one? Sculpture, sure, right? But Photoshop can be used in conjunction with 3D for textures, for added effects. So Photoshop with 3D go together as well too. Yeah. Which one? The first flower only? The only one? Yeah. So here I'll do this. Right? Oh, sorry. Which one? This flower here? Just yeah. Oh, change the color. So if I want to change the color, then I have to change the color of this too, right? But let me take that. Let's just do this instead. Let's just change this yellow color you're saying, right? Right? So in this case, I would use the object selection tool, right? Sorry, what is this one here? Quick selection tool, right? I would pick the color or select color range. I'm only selecting that color, see? So I can go ahead and fix it. Oops. Go brush tool. Anyways, so there's the color selected, right? So now if I go to Q, quick mask mode, make sure that's selected. I could do adjustment layer, right? And go to hue and saturation, which is right over here. Yeah, hue right here, hue saturation. And then I could change the color this way, see? I could change the brightness, the contrast, right? So this way it's separate. You can always go here and double click and change it again. See? But I would have strategically selected the yellow, not the inside. You know what I mean? And then, yeah, just have that. So that's okay. Let's say I want to do this and I'm like, oh man, I selected too much of things that I shouldn't have. So in that case, what I would do, let me just quickly do this here, right? So in that case, I would go in there, right? Go with the layer mask, use a brush, and simply take this away. So it's only selecting the leaves. So I'm in total control right now. If I don't want this leaf to get, I'll just take that one off as well. So you total control what you want to do, right? Again, adjustment layer with the layer mask together, very powerful stuff, right? Any more questions? So that was another crash course on how this layer mask stuff works. You know, dive into it, try it out. You might not have to use all that stuff, but one of them, just to understand the concept, it's going to help you with your stuff. If you can apply this in your Facebook advertisement, I want to see it, okay? All right, so now that you know how to do it, you have one more week, sure, try it out, see what you can do with it. All right, we're going to grab a quick break, and then we'll wrap up the other video segment with an exercise. The last one, I saved the best for last, is this one here. It's called Lesson 2 Layers. I'm going to show you how to make a composition. Everything that you learned so far in today's lesson, you're going to apply it in an overall exercise on this one here, okay? So that's going to come up next, and I'm going to go ahead and stop the video right now and come back and continue the recording. All right, so I wish I could just pause the video, but it's either stop or continue. So I'm just going to stop the recording and I'll see you in the second video.